Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's regular meeting of the Woburn City Council of January 7th, 2025, as well as Mayor Concannon's State of the City Address. Just as a reminder to everyone, tonight's meeting is being recorded for broadcast. Also, please silence your cell phones. Before we say the Pledge of Allegiance, let us have a moment of silence on behalf of President Carter. We also extend our well wishes to his family and friends. Thursday is a National Day of Mourning on behalf of President Carter, and you'll also notice out in City Hall, we have the mountains that are out there. They could not be placed outside because of the wind. Thank you. If you'll now stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Higgins, if you would call a roll, please.
Counsel Campbell, absent. Counsel Demers.
Here.
Counsel DeMambro.
Present.
Counsel Ferrulo.
Present.
Counsel Mercer Bruin.
Here.
Counsel Papalato.
Present.
Counsel Toro.
Present.
Counsel Viola.
Present.
President Dillon.
Present.
The first item on the agenda we have pursuant to Title II, Article 3, Section 2-13 of the 1989 Woburn Municipal Code as amended, His Honor the Mayor, Michael P. Concannon, will be delivering the State of the City Address.
Mayor Concannon, how are you tonight?
I'm fine, Mr. President. How are you?
Very good, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. To you and to the members of the City Council, Madam Chair, and to the members of the School Committee, Ms. Davis from the Northeast Volks School Committee, Representative Hagerty, Representative Sicolo, Madam Clerk, city officials, board and commission members, department heads and employees, and all those present in the chambers, I thank you for your attendance and for your support this past year, and I wish you and your families a happy, healthy, and prosperous 2025. I wish the same for all of Woburn's residents. As Clerk Higgins advised us, I appear before you this evening to deliver the State of the City Address. Per the ordinance, on the appointed day and time, the mayor shall appear before the City Council and members of the School Committee for the purpose of addressing them on the general welfare and state of the city. It's my pleasure and my honor to do so. I'll tell you that I have been advised, and perhaps even cautioned, that the purpose of the State of the City Address is to provide just that, a status, a summary, a synopsis even of highlights, versus a litany or a listing or a long-winded recitation of each and every issue facing the city. I'll try my best to abide by that guidance and to keep my remarks relatively brief. I would ask that you refrain from frequent interruptions of prolonged and thunderous applause, as that will only extend the length of my speech. With that said, I'm here tonight to report to you and to all of Woburn's residents, businesses, and other stakeholders that, thanks to the support and efforts of each and every one of you, the state of the city of Woburn is strong. And although the city's charter and ordinances primarily contemplate the general welfare and state of our city government, I think it's important to note that our city, our community, is so much more than just our city government's operations. I'm here tonight to report to you that the overall community that is Woburn, a community made up of residents, families, businesses, civic, social, and religious organizations, volunteer groups, and neighbors, along with our city government employees and operations, is not only strong, but it's thriving. One of the ways we've made our city government stronger this past year is by intentionally and significantly increasing the level of cooperation, coordination, and collaboration between and amongst the City Council, the School Committee, all of the city departments, employee unions, boards and commissions, and the Mayor's office. We've done so based on certain core principles, primarily that we're stronger when working together, and that the best decisions come from the best team approach. where all opinions and all options are considered, and the source of the best ideas just doesn't matter. Every decision that's made is made after thoughtful discussion with and input from all interested parties, and it's always guided by the best interest of the city as a whole. One particular note that's important for our residents to understand is that we've transformed the manner in which the mayor's office and the city council interact and work together on a daily basis. The city council president and I speak by phone or in person almost every single day, often several times in a given day, and I consider and value his input and that of the city council on all significant issues and decisions. Further, each week we hold a project update meeting in my office on Thursday mornings, which is generally attended by the president and a different member or two of the city council. At this meeting, updates on citywide projects and issues are discussed, and there are opportunities for individual councilors to ask questions, offer input, and to raise issues directly with our team. The team in the room often consists of the city engineer, the DPW superintendent, the planning director, the city auditor, purchasing agent, and even on occasion, our legal, building, conservation, parks and recreation, health, and IT departments. Collectively, we've found that this practice enhances effectiveness and efficiency and has significantly improved communication. To add to this, I'd like to take this opportunity tonight to announce that with the recent acquisition and upcoming occupancy of our City Hall Annex next door at 6 Common Street, we anticipate being able to locate a City Council President's office here at City Hall to be used by the President and members of the City Council as they see fit. I believe that this long overdue step will only serve to further enhance and strengthen the coordination between the City Council, the Mayor's office, and our city departments. That, in turn, will strengthen our city. Additionally, we have enhanced the relationship between the Mayor's office, the City Council, the school committee, and the school administration, and we've vastly improved the collective understanding of what is happening in our schools and how our tax dollars are being spent. We do so by meeting each Friday morning at a different school, where we tour, observe, ask questions, and receive feedback on the status of our schools. The school superintendent, Dr. Crowley, and I are joined each week by the administrative teams at each schools, by city council members and school committee members, to see firsthand the daily operations of our schools and to see the very real and often significant needs of our students being met by our dedicated teachers, support staff, and administrative team is incredibly important and informs decisions at budget time. We have also changed the manner in which the school department budget is prepared and submitted for approval. This past budget cycle, our team, including the mayor, the city council president, the school committee chair, the superintendent and assistant superintendents, the school department financial team, and the city financial team, met on a weekly basis over a dozen weeks to scrutinize, discuss, debate, deliberate, and develop, in conjunction with the school committee's finance subcommittee, a school budget that would meet the needs of our district and could be afforded by our taxpayers. In the end, with the support of the school committee and the city council, we settled on a budget that was palatable to most, if not all, and strengthened our delivery of educational services to our district. Another successful initiative that has strengthened the relationship is the inclusion of our school department in our monthly WUSTAT meetings. For several years now, the city has been working with the Collins Center for Public Management at UMass Boston to capture and analyze financial and performance data of various city departments to enhance our efficiency and productivity. Up until this year, the DPW, the police department, and the fire department have been the only departments involved. But as of this past fall, we've begun to work with the school department to gather, review, and analyze their data to better understand their financial status and to track performance. We're excited to have them join us, and we appreciate their cooperation. On that note, I'm also pleased to announce that the city was the recent recipient of a state grant for $46,000, which will assist us in studying and potentially identifying opportunities for the school department and the city side of our government to work more efficiently regarding facility and building maintenance, among other areas. Another key guiding principle this past year has been to reaffirm and reemphasize the value of public service in general and the contributions of our city and school department workforce. For too long, those who work for our city government have been undervalued and underappreciated. In order to strengthen our city, that needed to change. One of my responsibilities as mayor is to bring attention to and to accurately portray the incredibly hard work that's done by our city employees each and every day, and to educate our citizens that they should feel confident that their hard-earned tax dollars are being spent wisely and efficiently. We have a strong workforce here in Woburn, and they are to be valued. I'd be remiss if I didn't pause to mention and to remember fondly a member of our City Hall family, Rita McBride of the Assessor's Office, who passed away this past year. Rita was an example of a strong and wonderful City of Woburn employee. She was an even better person. We miss her terribly. I'd like to touch a bit on other city department highlights if I could. By way of summary, some of the other city departments' highlights include from the police. Our police department continues to serve as a statewide model of a professional law enforcement agency. Their prompt and courteous response to roughly 30,000 calls, along with their proactive traffic safety and crime control posture, has ensured that our city continues to be safe and desirable. The department has brought on several new officers to replace retiring officers and has also added a canine officer through a grant. Also, we brought on 2 new motorcycles, which will be used to supplement our response and traffic capabilities. Also, along with our fire department, the police department is upgrading our public safety radio system. And the fire department. Our fire department continues to respond to calls for service at a record pace, over 8,000 calls for service this past year alone, and always in a prompt, professional, and compassionate manner. With the support of the City Council, we've been able to get back to minimum staffing levels, and we've been able to replace aging apparatus, equipment, and radios. We also enhanced our training capabilities. At the DPW, in addition to handling the daily public works needs of our city, roadway and sidewalk maintenance, water sewer needs, tree maintenance, cemetery maintenance, and facilities maintenance, as well as 775 citizen requests for service, our DPW has also taken on several larger projects in-house, which has led to successful outcomes and significant savings for our taxpayers. Among those in-house projects, we had the Lexington Street Drainage Improvement Project, the Clapp Park Parking Lot Cleanup Project, the Community Garden Access Road Project, the Green Nashua Holton Streets Project, Magazine Hill Parking Lot Project, the Hanson School Municipal Parking Lot Cleanup Project, the Malcolm White School Parking Lot Project, the Blake Street Drainage Improvement Project, the Washington Street Corridor Drainage Improvement Project, Commerce Way Culvert Cleanup Project, the North Woburn Yard Waste Recycling Location Project, and the previously referenced 6 Common Street acquisition and renovation. It should be noted that in order to adequately maintain the millions of dollars in city building and facility assets, it's essential that we address the glaring needs of our facilities department division. I would respectfully urge the City Council to work with me to find a solution to ensure that our buildings, both old and new, are receiving the attention and upkeep that they require, and that we're doing so efficiently and effectively. Some other highlights. Our health department successfully navigated the transition from manual to automated recycling pickup. Our parks department continued to maintain our parks and grounds at the highest levels. Our library department continued to make our beautiful library the welcoming and inviting center of our community for more than 15,000 visitors, with increased programming and resource expansion. Our senior center and Council on Aging continued to serve the needs of our senior population on a daily basis and added a brand-new van to the fleet to ensure that those seniors can visit the center on a daily basis. Our recreation department hosted programs which served 4,700 people. Our Veterans Service Department continued to professionally and compassionately meet the needs of Woburn's honored veterans. And the clerk's office efficiently ensured that every one of Woburn's voters was able to exercise their critically important right to vote. And lastly, our planning department, which includes our director, assistant planner, economic development manager, and our newly hired grant writer administrator, have bolstered the impact of our city's planning efforts. The team has reinvigorated and spearheaded our efforts to improve our downtown safety and cleanliness, as well as to improve our parking options. Due to the efforts of our planning director, our city engineer, and our traffic consultant, we were able to successfully advance the federal and state-funded $20 million downtown traffic improvement project, which will correct decades-old safety, access, and parking issues. The planning team has also been successful in obtaining hundreds of thousands of dollars in federal, state, and private grant funding to the city of Woburn. In addition, the planning department, in conjunction with the city council, was able to craft a zoning ordinance change that brought the city into compliance with the MBTA Communities Act, thereby avoiding the significant loss of state funding. I'd also like to announce tonight that, thanks to the efforts of the planning department, the city of Woburn was selected to receive a 3-year grant of $85,000 per year to fund an energy advocate position, which will be utilized to assist Woburn's residents in finding and implementing energy cost-saving measures. An issue that goes hand in hand with the recognition of and the respectful and fair treatment of city employees is the timely and reasonable settlement of collective bargaining agreements. I'm pleased to report that at the time of this writing, our team has settled 5 of the 7 recently expired employee union agreements. The 2 outstanding negotiations are ongoing, and we remain confident that we can resolve these in the near future with similar positive outcomes. The guidance given to our negotiating team, which consisted of our Human Resources Director, Shauna Healy, City Solicitor Mark Salvati, and City Auditor Charlie Doherty, was to work with our department heads and with outside labor counsel to determine fair and reasonable contract terms and to present them to our unions in a professional, business-like, and respectful manner. I'd like to extend my sincere appreciation to Shauna, Mark, and Charlie for their hard work and for conducting what has been described by each of the union representatives as the most professional contract negotiating sessions in memory. Having these agreements settled and avoiding the specter of lingering arbitration cases and tense relations only serves to strengthen our city. Another important goal has been to improve responsiveness and increase transparency in our city government by improving residents' and stakeholders' confidence in our operations. We do that by communicating frequently and openly, and by responding promptly and effectively to questions and concerns. I'd like to particularly thank Chris Kissel, Samantha Stone, and Diane Merles in my office, and Teresa Borelli from the City Solicitor's Office, who fills in admirably when needed, for ensuring that citizen requests and concerns, as well as City Council concerns, are responded to and addressed immediately. They also track progress with due-outs and due dates and ensure that things get done. We've also tried to significantly increase the level of accessibility and responsiveness by scheduling the first-ever quarterly town hall meetings, maintaining weekly Woburn Public Media Today and Woburn appearances, making prompt city website and Facebook page updates, utilizing reverse 911 notifications when applicable, and establishing a true open door policy for all. Now for the financial picture. One of the most important portions of any State of the City address is the current status of the city's finances and its impact on our taxpayers. We pledged a thorough and honest review of the city's actual needs and a transparent presentation of the cost of those needs to the City Council at budget time. I'm grateful to the school committee and to the City Council and to the city's department heads and employees, as well as to members of the public, for their input and their ultimate support of a realistic operating budget for the current fiscal year. The development of the budget was a painstaking effort, and we weighed very carefully the impacts that addressing the city's needs would have on the residents and the taxpayers of Woburn. As stated previously, we engaged in many hours of open, direct, and even pointed conversations about the financial implications of such decisions. And we also explored any and all ways to mitigate the impact of those decisions. The increases to the school department operating budget were clearly the driver of the increases to the overall city budget, accounting for more than 80% of the increase. That's because the school department is by far the largest cost center in the city budget, and this year's school department budget increased dramatically year over year. There were a few main reasons for this increase, including previously settled collective bargaining agreement increases, the loss of ESSER COVID-era funding, state-mandated increased costs in special education, staffing and support, and early childhood mandates, out-of-district special education tuition and transportation cost increases, homeless transportation cost increases, utility cost increases, and the impacts of inflation on utilities, materials, and supplies. The increasing needs of our students, specifically multi-language learner needs and special needs, continue to drive uncertainty in our budget planning. It should be noted that the financial impact of our newly arrived migrant students was mitigated, at least for now, by state reimbursements. The city side of the budget increased modestly due to a small number of personnel additions, insurance cost increases, cost of living increases, and inflationary pressure on the cost of utilities, materials, and supplies. As we begin preparing for the upcoming fiscal year 26 budget, we'll work to develop and present a budget that realistically serves the needs of the city and is respectful of the burden on our taxpayers. I'd like to offer my thanks to our financial team, both on the school side and on the city side. Here on the city side, we have Auditor Charlie Doherty, Treasurer Collector Tim Donovan, Chief Appraiser John Conley, and their staffs for all of their hard work and their guidance. Their application of sound financial principles, conservative revenue forecasting, and wise investment strategies have placed our city on solid ground. As the residential tax bills hit our mailboxes this past week, and the reality of the cost of running our city in 2025 hits home, it's important that we understand and acknowledge the context of this reality. I realize that it may not be of significant comfort when opening and reading those tax bills, but it is relevant information and it's important to acknowledge. The result of the increases to our FY25 operating budget was a one-year increase of $583 for the average single-family residence, in line with what was contemplated and discussed when the budget was passed. And while that's more than it has been in recent years, it's actually in line with our neighboring communities when viewed over time. For comparison purposes, the average single-family residential tax bill increase of our neighboring communities, to include Billerica, Burlington, Lexington, Reading, Stoneham, Winchester, and Wilmington, for the past 5 years, including the current year increase, is $417, as compared to $261 here in Woburn. It's important to note that we continue to experience growth in our city, both residential and commercial industrial. Approximately $5.4 million in total new growth in FY25. That was not quite as robust as in FY24, which was $6.7 million, but still it was up from FY23, $4.5 million. This shows that Woburn is still a desirable city for residents and businesses. Our home values also continue to increase. The average assessed value for a single-family home in Woburn is $700,311. That's up from $669,754 last year. And while that means that valuations for tax purposes and the resultant tax bills went up, it also means that most residents' largest investment, and likely the biggest piece of their retirement portfolio, their home, has increased significantly in value. That's also good news. Some other examples of our strong and enviable financial position are our strong excess tax levy capacity, our top AAA bond rating, and our robust reserves and stabilization account balances. Our commercial and industrial assessments rose only slightly, but due to Woburn's diversification of uses, i.e. not solely dependent on office space, we have been weathering the impact of the work from home trend better than some of our neighboring communities. We're also optimistic that with the opening of the new Boston Street Bridge early next year, and with potential development of the MBTA Anderson Regional Transportation Center site, that section of the city will see increased development in additions to our tax base. Of course, we'll work together to ensure that we employ smart growth principles as we evaluate projects in that area. Again, regarding Woburn's tax rates, the residential rate is now $8.54 per thousand. It's up from $8.06 in FY24, but it's still less than the $8.70 in FY23. The commercial industrial rate is now $20.41. Again, up from $19.72 in FY24, but still less than the $21.14 in FY23. And again, when we compare to our neighboring communities, Woburn is still the lowest residential rate and is the lowest commercial industrial rate among those communities with any real commercial industrial base. Just some numbers real quick. Woburn's average single-family tax bill is $5,981. $5,981, a lot of money. Compare that to Billerica, $7,196. Burlington, $6,773. Lexington, $19,299. Reading, $10,019. Stoneham, $7,834. Wilmington, $7,816. And Winchester, $17,687. This is the context in which our tax rates and tax bills must be viewed, as well as the high level of services provided here in Woburn as compared to our neighbors. Capital projects. In terms of potential significant capital budget expenses, we're currently considering the results of a school building feasibility study. The study was reviewed by the school committee's ad hoc building committee, and some preliminary recommendations have been made. In short, the feasibility study and building committee reports include information and guidance regarding the construction of a new North Woburn Elementary School, as well as the construction, renovation, and consolidation of our two middle schools. The price tag for these construction projects is significant. And before any decisions are made or project paths are agreed upon, much more review and assessment, not to mention community input, is required. We will continue to study all options. Another pressing school department capital budget concern is the more immediate need for classroom space, particularly for our early childhood program, or ECP. preliminary discussions have taken place about ECP options, including the possible use of portable or modular classrooms. But similar to the elementary and middle school construction discussions, more community input is necessary before decisions can be made. And critical to this ECP issue is the school committee's ongoing redistricting effort. These two issues are intertwined. More work is needed on both. Another capital budget item of note is the recent purchase of the building next door to City Hall, commonly known as the Martini Building. The city was able to secure a friendly taking of this asset for a fair price, thanks to the efforts of our city solicitor. With the support of the city council, we purchased the building with stabilization account funds, thus avoiding an impact to the tax burden. ADA and public accommodations improvements are currently underway at the building, and we anticipate that the building department, the engineering department, and the conservation department will move into this space. We'll also be able to utilize the basement in that building for much-needed storage. This will free up space here in City Hall to allow other departments to spread out and to better serve the public. Another significant capital project is the imminent construction of our PFAS water treatment plant building. The contract has been awarded, and we anticipate construction to begin shortly, with an expected completion schedule of approximately 18 months. You'll hear more about that during your meeting from Ms. Rigo. It's important to note that Woburn is at the forefront of addressing this issue. Last but certainly not least is the recent approval by the City Council of the $30 million bond authorization for two new fire stations, Station 4 in East Woburn and Station 5 on the west side. These funds, coupled with the previously approved bond authorization for fire headquarters, will also allow us to refurbish Station 1 in the south end, thereby completing the upgrade of all stations. We intend to move quickly on the demo and rebuild of Station 4 while we continue to identify the best location for a new Station 5. Some other significant ongoing infrastructure improvement projects that we continue to advance to final resolution include the Eversource Horn Pond area Lake Ave Arlington Road project, the Bedford Road Cambridge Road project, the Shamrock School Splash Pad project, the Shamrock School Skateboard Park project, the Plimpton Park project, the Hurl demolition and the park project at that site, the Salem Bow Beach Street project, the MWRA East Boston project. Hopefully we're done. The Leland Park Improvements project, the Washington Street, Washington Terrace project, the New Boston Street Bridge project, the Ferrullo Field Playground project. Special note, we appreciate the contribution of the Commission on Disability to advance that project. Greatly appreciate their assistance. Also, the Merrimack East Dexter North Maple Street project, and the School of Merrimack Street project, the Shaker Glen project, street paving and sidewalk improvements across the city, and the downtown traffic improvement project. Another key initiative that we identified as an opportunity to strengthen our city and our community was to better connect those members of our community who are in need with those private individuals and organizations in our community who provide services to meet those needs. For too long, the role of city government in connecting needs with services was minimal at best. There was a thought, and it has been confirmed over this past year, that more could be done without our municipal government delving into areas where it's not equipped or financially able to actually provide the services. With that in mind, we repurposed a vacant position in the mayor's office and created the position of community outreach and communications, and we hired Samantha Stone. In less than a year, this position has had a significant impact in serving as the connective tissue between Woburn's many residents in need in our vast network of area civic, social, religious, and nonprofit organizations. In less than a year, we've served more than 220 individual resident inquiries and needs. We've connected more than 250 job seekers with local employers at a job fair. We hosted 38 service organizations and a volunteer resource expo. Samantha led the city's Kindness Day and also hosted a trick-or-treat event here at City Hall that was well attended. And we also launched our first ever City Services Dashboard. The impact of this position cannot be overstated. I'm pleased to announce tonight that thanks to the incredible, generous support from Cummings Properties, we will be establishing the city's first Community Resource Center in space donated by Bill Cummings and his team, all with no cost to the city of Woburn. The CRC will be a hub for many of the private entities currently providing social service support to our residents. It's expected to be open shortly, and more details will be shared on the city website. Another example of significant residential needs being met with no financial impact to our city budget is the recent hiring of our substance misuse and mental health coordinator position. This position, which is 100% funded by the National Opioid Crisis legal settlements, was a top priority given the opioid crisis impacting our nation and our city. It was filled this past spring by Mackenzie Diezik. In her short time in this position, Mackenzie has already established strong relationships with our internal partners, to include Woburn PD and Woburn Fire and others, and with several external substance misuse and mental health provider partners and stakeholders. She's also established a safe drug disposal pouch program and has an upcoming Narcan training session planned in February. The CRC and the Substance Misuse and Mental Health Coordinator position are tangible ways in which we have strengthened our city and our community. And finally, one last upbeat note of excitement for 2025. I'm pleased to announce tonight that we've established a Battle Road 250th Celebration Committee, led by Councilor Chuck Viola and Kathy Lucero. The committee has been tasked with developing the City of Woburn's plans to participate in our nation's 250th birthday celebration in April. Our efforts center on improvements to the Battle Road area off Russell Street at the old Tarkey School site, hosting a commemorative event on Saturday morning, April 12th, and ultimately placing the Battle Road on the National Historic Register. Stay tuned for more information on this exciting development. Before I wrap up my remarks tonight, I'd like to take a brief moment of personal privilege to pause to extend my sincere appreciation to my wife, Anne Marie, and to my family. Very much appreciate all your support this past year, a year that might be one of the most rewarding and fulfilling, certainly the quickest, of my life. Thank you very much. So to conclude, the prolonged and thunderous applause that I mentioned earlier might be appropriate at this point. For all the reasons just enumerated, I appear before you tonight as your mayor to confidently report that the state of our city and our community is strong. And with your continued support and efforts, it will only get stronger. I thank you for everything that you do each day to make our city such a wonderful place to live, work, and raise a family. Thank you for your attendance and for your attention. May God continue to bless the United States of America, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the City of Woburn, and each of you. Good night.
Thank you, Mayor Concanon. Well done, sir.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion that the copy of the address be received and made part of the permanent record.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Make a motion for a 5-minute recess.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Go ahead.
Make a motion to return to the regular order of business?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Before we return to regular order of business, if we can take a moment of silence for Sergeant Paul Tenney from the Woburn Police Department. We offer our sincere condolences to his family.
First item on the agenda we have is the reading of the previous meeting journal.
Make a motion that we dispense with the reading of the previous journal and approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Next item on the agenda is a communication requesting time to discuss update on PFAS drinking water standard. Communication dated December 1st, 2024 was received from His Honor, the Mayor, Michael P. Concanon.
Make a motion the communication be received, made part of the permanent record.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Make a motion to suspend the rules to allow the mayor and his designee to speak.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Mayor Concanon.
Thank you, Mr.
Floor
President.
again, sir.
Hello again. I'll just simply do a quick introduction and let Ms. Rigo take over and give you the update on the status of PFAS as well as the status of the PFAS treatment plant. And I promise my introduction will be only slightly less than my State of the City address. I did not intend it to be quite that long. But anyway, we have good news. The PFAS results for the year are in compliance, which is great, but we know that the longer-term issue still needs to be addressed, so we're proceeding expeditiously with the awarding of the contract and the construction of the new PFAS water treatment plant at Hon Pond. I think you're all familiar with the project. We have a little bit of updated information tonight, so with that, I'd like to turn it over to Carol Rigo to provide that additional information. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Concanon. Thank you. Ms. Rigo, how are you tonight?
Ms. Rigo is okay.
Thank you for your time.
It's a tough act to follow, though, that's the state of the city thing. Anyway, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
This is brief, and it's, we have a lot of good things happening, so, oops, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, I took out a couple of things that we've talked about in the past because they kind of don't have any significance any longer. We all know that we built a bottle filling station at the senior center and things like that. So this is a little bit more abbreviated. So we'll start with talking about the results for Horn Pond. These are the results that go back to the beginning since we started monitoring in 2019. And you can see we have our little pattern. And then the last results, the fourth quarter of 2024, I'll talk about that a little bit more on the next slide. But the average of all of this data since 2019 is 17.3 parts per trillion, PPT. And as you know, in 2021, the state promulgated regulations for PFAS of a standard of 20 parts per trillion for the sum of 6 of the compounds, 6 of the more concerning compounds. So this data is quarterly averages. So that other data is every single sample. This data is quarterly averages, and this is how the compliance is determined. So you can see that in 2024, we had a really good year. The quarterly averages ranged from 12 to 17, and we had no exceedances of the standard in 2024. And we were just a hair over at the end of 2023. So that's all really good news. And another quick update, EPA, the last time we met, EPA had proposed their own regulations at the federal level, and now they have, since that time, they have now finalized those federal regulations. So this is just a quick comparison. We've seen this chart before, but this has the final numbers. So the 4 parts per trillion for 2 of the PFAS compounds, the first 2, PFOA and PFOS, those were the same as what was proposed. And the Horn Pond average through the end of this last year was 7 and 8. So the Horn Pond average would exceed these new federal regulations. So even though the city has to treat per the Mass DEP regulations, you would also have to treat per the federal regulations. And then EPA at the federal level proposed levels of certain other compounds that are not regulated by the state. And you can see the quick comparison here. I'm not going to read all of these, but basically the city's levels are well below those other, for those other compounds are well below the proposed federal standard. So it's really the two main, PFOA and PFAS, and those are the legacy compounds. Those are the ones that were first used. They have been in existence the longest, and they also, most of them have been phased out, but you have legacy material in the environment. So one other quick thing about the federal regulations is the compliance date under the federal regulations will be April of 2029. It was supposed to be just 3 years, and they, under a lot of pressure, they extended it, and they gave the cities and towns 5 years. But under the Mass DEP regulations, we have to have our facility, sooner than that, which I'll talk about in 1 second. Okay, so here's the 1 second. The treatment to remove PFAS, this is just a quick refresher. We're going to be building an addition to the New Year's ghost. We're going to be building an addition to the treatment support building where that blue oval is on the screen, on the site plan. And this is what's been happening since the last big update that we provided. So we received the approval, the technical approval in March of '24. The city was also notified of a federal grant in March of 2024, which I'll talk about in a second. We advertised for construction for bids in the end of February. We received the filed sub-bids, which are like the trades, the electrical, the plumbing, that kind of stuff, in April. We received the general contractor bids in May. The low bidder was R.H. White Companies out of Auburn, Massachusetts. And if that name sounds vaguely familiar, that's because R.H. White was the contractor who built the last upgrade at Horn Pond. So they did the building in the foreground here where it says the 2011 treatment upgrade manganese removal and that 2011 treatment support building. They were the general contractor for that work. So that was a nice thing to have happen. And then after all of this really good news, a bid protest was filed in June. And it took a couple months to be resolved through the Attorney General's office. But the protest was denied, and the city, it was denied, and the city won, for lack of a better term. And then with that, it allowed the paperwork to proceed for awarding the construction contract. So we received that approval in November, literally the day before Thanksgiving. And the contract was signed that same day, the day before Thanksgiving. It was a scramble, but we pulled it off. And the contract became effective on December 17th, and it's a 590-day duration, so the completion would be at the end of July of 2026. And because everybody wants to know about budgets, so this is the way the costs are right now. The construction that bid, the low bidder, was $19,398, as I mentioned. And that $19,398, $18.4 million is going to be funded through the SRF State Revolving Fund. That's a loan, 0% interest, and there will likely be also some what they call principal forgiveness. So not all of that will need to be paid back. We do not know the final principal forgiveness number yet, but we will know hopefully within the next 3 weeks. And then the remainder of the $19.398 million is going to be paid from a grant. This is a federal grant. It's called the STAG grant. That's the acronym. And that money will be, it has to be dedicated to a certain portion of the project, and it will be dedicated to the cost to replace well A. The contingency is a little under $1 million. That's 5%. That's standard practice. The engineering and the city's owner's project manager, or OPM, that total is just under 2.6 million. So we have a total cost of just under 23 million, of which 22 million is the SRF loan and the 959,700 is the grant. The city appropriated, you guys appropriated 22 million in June of 2023, and you can see that we've got this loan of 21,999,965. So that was just very fortuitous and worked out pretty well. So, so what's happening next? The Board of Trustees of the Clean Water Trust, that's the agency that administers the state revolving fund, they're going to meet tomorrow, actually, and they're going to vote for approval of the financing agreement for the loan. They're going to actually approve the entire roughly just under $22 million. Because of the delay in getting the contract approved and awarded, they normally would have approved 15 million and then the rest, but they're going to do it all at once. So that's good, so we won't have to go through a second approval process. We're looking, right now, we're trying to work on scheduling the pre-construction meeting, the shop drawing submittals where the contractor proposes and demonstrates the materials and equipment that they intend to use so that we can review. That's starting. I'm starting to get emails on that. We're looking at site mobilization in early to mid-February. And when I say site mobilization, that's things like putting out the trailers and all the erosion control and protection, because it's obviously a very sensitive location next to the pond. And then the actual, like what you'd call construction, where you start seeing equipment and things, would be early March. And then spring of 2026 would be the estimated, late spring of 2026 would be the estimated when we start to test things out and start the facility. And completion would be, there might be a few little things that linger after July of 2026, but they call it substantial completion. That would be in July of 2026. So a lot happened in the last year, and we've had some good PFAS results for the last year. So everything's moving ahead. That's it.
Great.
Questions from the council? Nothing? Councilor Bruin?
Just wanted to say, again, thank you, Carol, for all of your hard work. I can't believe we're here. Like, we're here. We can taste it, right?
I know.
So thank you, and thank you, Tony, and the team, and Jay, everybody.
Yeah, no, it's great. Great news. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you for making PFAS understandable for us all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just don't ask us to take a quiz
Oh, I don't
on
know.
some of those numbers.
There might be one of those at the groundbreaking.
There you go.
I don't know.
Motion to return to the regular order of
Thank
business.
you.
Happy New Year, Carol. Thank you.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Make a motion that the matter be placed on file?
Second.
Motion and a second to place the matter on file, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Next item on the agenda we have is an order authorizing the city to file and accept grants from the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs for the construction of the Hurl Park Playground.
Make a motion to suspend the rules to allow the mayor to speak?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes. You have the floor, Mayor Concan.
Thank you. This is the typical process we go through. Allows us to solicit the grant money to fund the park. As you know, the building, the Hurl School is currently being demoed, and then we're on to the next phase of the park itself. I think it would be helpful if the council's so inclined to send this to committee. I can have Jay Corey join me and bring you up to speed on any particular questions you might have.
Any questions before we, yes?
Mr. Mayor, do you wish to take this to committee or adopt this evening? I mean, if there are No questions.
I'm okay either way. I didn't know if there were any lingering questions or any updates you needed that Jay might be able to better answer, but it is straightforward. It's the customary request we make in these type of situations,
No, I
so
think it
council's
seems like pretty
pleasure.
standard language that I don't think anybody here on the council would have a problem with, but I wouldn't pretend to speak for any of my colleagues.
Councilor Mercer-Brown.
I agree with Councilor Demers. If we're ready to move forward, why, but that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Great.
Make a motion to return the regular order.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Make a motion the order be adopted.
Second.
Motion and a second, the order be adopted, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Thank you, Mayor Concan.
Next item on the agenda is an order that $30,000 be transferred from U-Haul Olympia Avenue account to Pine Street Crossing Light account.
Make a motion, we send this to Committee on Finance?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Next item on the agenda we have under public hearings is National Grid for grant of location to replace existing gas main of 650 feet with 940 feet of new plastic gas main from 315 to 323. New Boston Street, not on the extended agenda, is a communication dated January 7, 2025, from Jay Duran, the Superintendent of Public Works.
Make a motion the communication be received and made part of the permanent record.
Second.
The motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
The petitioner is here.
How are you tonight?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Excellent,
Happy New
thank
Year. I'm here, I'm Diana Cuddy, National Grid, 170 Data Drive, Waltham, Massachusetts, and I'm here to, for the second time, to request the grant allocation for the, our main replacement on New Boston Street. I appreciate, thank you very much for giving me the extension. With the holidays, it was a mad scramble the last couple of days, but I have pretty much everything I think I need to present tonight, and I know I read Jay's memo. I got it earlier today, and I'm hoping that maybe with some of the information I have tonight, he'll see it worth moving forward at this time instead of waiting any longer. So, let's see here. So the city took ownership of a driveway along New Boston Street so that they can reconstruct the bridge to the MBTA parking lot. And so this is a little bit of a different project than we normally see. The city engineer worked with their engineering consultant, VHB, and came up with a design for all the water and sewer that would go into this new section of New Boston Street. We got that drawing of the proposed utilities and overlaid our gas replacement on top of it. So we're all working off the same site plan, and that's the plan that I submitted for the grant allocation. So the other little oddity here is that the DOT is overseeing the construction of this project, even though it's on city land. The DOT contractor is actually going to install all the city utilities, the water, sewer, and drainage. It's my understanding that they're going to do that. And one of the issues is that there's a retaining wall that is going to be constructed, and that the DOT needs to monitor any trenching next to it because of the strapping. However, this is constructed, that it's really sensitive to any kind of ground grading and trenching work near it. So this is something, and I know that Jay doesn't know this because I just found this out on the way out the door tonight, but in addition to the contractor for the DOT doing the trenching for the city's utilities, we're hoping that they will also do our trenching because they know exactly where everything is, and then we'll just come back in and we can lay the pipe. They can backfill, compact, pave the whole thing, and it's just a uniform, seamless project. So that's one of the main reasons I would like to see if we could get the grant allocation tonight so that we're just ready to go. We still would need a permit from Jay when the time comes to do the actual piping. Let's see. Yeah, so normally we would come in after the city's work was done. The drains and the water and the sewer were all set, and then we would come in and lay our gas line. This is a little different because we're either, if they don't do the trenching for us, we're going to have to pretty much work side by side. So the timing of this is critical. When the DOT came to us, they, when they proposed the project, we had to enter into a force account agreement with them, and we're contractually obligated to do our work within 23 days of a notice to proceed. So a lot of this is time dependent, and if we don't comply, we lose the benefit of being reimbursed for all our work to move the gas main so that they could build this on-ramp and redo this road. We are putting in a 2-inch plastic gas main, so there is some flexibility with it. If we encounter a problem in the field, we can adjust it easily. It's good to do this with everything like dead, so that if there's a problem, we're not working with live utilities, like a live water line, a live sewer line. And let's see, what else? We do have, I was out there Friday. I understand Eversource has a utility pole that's in the way. They have promised to get that out by mid-February. I was asked to give them a call to see utility to utility if we could get that expedited. I did get an email earlier, but right before I left again, that they are looking into expediting removal of that utility pole so that the grading work can continue and the project can stay on track. I think, is that all? Yeah, I guess that's pretty much everything. So time-wise, what we were hoping is if we could get the grant tonight, and then and then get the utility pole removed, then the grading is done, and we can come in along with the contractor for DOT that will do the city utility, and then do ours all at the same time seamlessly. Again, we would still be getting a permit from DPW to do our work and do the dig safe and everything else. So that's the information I was able to get.
Very good, thank you. Questions? Councilor DeMambro.
I just have a question. It's 0 New Boston Street. There's going to be also another project going on. Is this going to impede that in any way, or will this tie into 0 New Boston Street, the CCF project for the 250 apartments?
Is that going past, if you go down New Boston Street past
It's going to be
315?
beyond 315, but I just wasn't sure if they were going to tie in, or you're going to leave some sort of a connection for them.
We are. So the service to 315, which is why the grant, we really can't do the construction in 2 phases. The service, I mean, the main will, the city's taken over the driveway to 315. So we're continuing the gas main down around the corner, and now the new connection to 315 will be at the end of where we showed it on the plans to that building. There is, did hear today that there's another project that I'll be back for to get a main extension into whatever the development is farther down the street.
And is your line going to be on where they raised the grade on the lift, or will it be on the inside of the existing sign there for, I believe it's 317 New Boston Street? Is it going to be on the inside of that in the parking lot, or is it going to be inside on the opposite side where the lift is?
So we're coming around the far side of 315.
Okay.
And then 317 is closer to down the road, right? 315, I think, is the last building, right? Yeah.
Okay.
So we're coming around the edge of that, around the side of that, and then the back corner on that side, we would do the connection into the building.
But you're not going to go through the hot top to the existing exit and entrance on that property that kind of comes up and over, that's hot topped? You won't be accessing that at all? You'll be using all of the gravelled area and where they're doing all the grade work, correct?
That's my understanding. Yeah, they're going to finish grading that. This utility pole is actually blocking. They've done some of the grading on the far end. And my understanding from when I was out there on Friday with the DOT resident engineers, that's the elevation, that it would be a final elevation for that part of the street. And then they'll fill the rest of that in once they get that utility pole out, and then we would be in that part of. We're on that side of New Boston Street.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Councilor Toro.
Thank you. Thank you for the information. Not sure if the information provided tonight is satisfactory to our superintendent, but I generally am going to defer to him as our expert. So if he's not satisfied with the information and he thinks it's premature, I'm going to side with that gentleman over there.
Okay.
So you really, in my opinion, I'm only one vote on the council, but you got to make sure that individual over there is satisfied before you get the vote from me. So,
Councilor Demers.
Just a question, and I don't know if we need to suspend the rules to allow the DPW superintendent to speak, but I mean, if we're sitting here just with the issue in front of us is to grant a location, but they can't do any work until the superintendent issues a permit. is this just a clerical issue here that we're debating, or is it something that, I mean, are we pushing this off when, Superintendent Duran can just hold off on issuing the permit? That's just a question I have. I'm just wondering what the,
Can we ask you?
yeah.
I,
Madam Clerk, would I have to suspend the rules to ask that, or open the public hearing and maybe Superintendent?
Open the public hearing, you just open it to public comment. I think he could address it, because
It's germane.
yes.
Make a motion to open it up to the public comment?
No. No.
No, we're good.
don't need.
I withdraw my motion.
Good evening, folks.
Superintendent Duran, how are you?
Just curious, Jay.
Could you just identify yourself for the record for the people at home, please? Thank you.
Jay Duran, Superintendent of Public Works. So I am in disagreement with Diana here.
Okay.
And I spoke directly, this afternoon, I spoke directly with Mass DOT Bridge Engineer, the guy in charge. And I said, if I hold up this grant of location, am I holding up the job? And he said, absolutely not. I would prefer you do not get the grant of location.
Okay.
That they don't get the grant of location tonight, that they're not far enough along. And typically, I would issue a grant of location when I know that their utility can satisfactorily be put in there with proper clearance after our utilities within our roadway are built.
Great.
And we're not anywhere close to that.
Okay.
So I'm not opposed.
Sure.
If when all is said and done, and the bridge is built, and the structures are in place, and the utilities are in place, and we know that they can fit, and I feel comfortable, I'll stand on my head and give you
Great,
their
Jay.
approval.
That was
But
I think that was
we're
a
not there right now.
Yeah, the clarification some of us kind of
Right.
wanted was a little bit more in depth than what, just letting us know how you go about the process. So
That's exactly
appreciate
how, like, everything is in stages and steps. That's the way we do that's the way I do everything. But that way, I think you guys do the same.
Great.
And that's the way I think we should handle this.
Great.
We're not opposed to them, but I don't think they're ready. And when the DOT bridge engineer says they're not ready, they're not ready. He knows
Yep.
better than I.
Sure. All right. Thank you for your
Okay,
insight. I
thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Feedback?
I talked to the bridge engineer on my way out the door today, too. Yeah, I really feel like if we can work, so a lot of times on a private development, we will have the contractor for the developer do our trenching and the other utility trenching, because it's not documented for dig safe. They know where everything is. So that was the theory with this. We would all do it, they would all do it together. And then that's one paving, one backfill, one set of standards. So it's a little different here than normally, like, I know how Jay likes to do them. I've known him for 10 years, and I know that his process is a good process. It's just different for this particular case, that's all. And I think that it's a little better to get ahead of it with the grant than normal.
Thank you. Yes, Councilor.
I just want to reiterate what Councilor Toro said, is we have a document in front of us from the city engineer that says that he's not ready to go with this. No matter how much we debate here about 23 days and this thing, convenience, our expert is saying no. And that's sort of where I stand.
Thank you. Councilor Viola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I as well have to agree with Councilor Ferrulo and Councilor Toro with this as well. But while I do have a representative from National Grid here, I'd like to bring up an issue that I do have over on Cambridge Road, now that I have you in front of me.
Okay.
Between 269 and 293 Cambridge Road, there's a smell of gas there. It's been going on for years. And can't seem to get anybody to address it, look into it further. If you could look into that, please.
269 to 293?
Yes.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you.
So just, if there's, the gas leaks are graded, grade 1 is emergency, 2, 2A, and 3. If it's a grade 3, then it's a monitoring leak. It's not enough gas is emitting, but I can definitely have it looked into, and sometimes we can move the grade 3s up, so I'll
Thank you.
definitely make a mention of that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah,
Councilor
just if
Pappalardo.
Superintendent Duran isn't going to, bless this, you're not going to get this through, in my opinion. And no matter what other factors come into play, we're not going to go against the superintendent because this is his function, and I think that we trust in what he's saying. So It's just my opinion.
Okay, I was just hoping that this, the information I got last minute would be helpful with persuading everybody.
Thank you. Councilor DeMambo.
I just have a question. Would it be okay if we were to grant the permit but leave it conditioned that it's up to Superintendent Duran to issue it when he feels comfortable at that particular point? When he feels comfortable that it's at that particular, so we can kind of go through this step, grant it, but condition it to his recognizance that when he feels comfortable, then he issues NSTAR the permit to do the dig and install the pipe. That's just in the form of a question. I don't know who could answer that.
There
but
are some municipalities that combine the permit and the grant. I can offer that as,
It just,
Yeah.
it has to be conditioned, though, under Superintendent Duran. When he feels it's time, he issues it. It's a question.
Please.
Could I just about that or answer that? So the grant of
Could you please,
I think I said it earlier.
Superintendent Duran, could you please just speak into the microphone for the public? Thank you.
Surprise.
Again, Jay Durant, Superintendent of Public Works. So again, the grant of location is to, once we grant this, they're entitled to go into that right of way. And I can't say right now that that's gonna fit in that right of way. Our utilities have to go first, because they will put it right on top of us, no matter what, and I'm sure Diane's intentions aren't to do that, but that has happened in the past, and we can't do that, because that's compromising the city of Woburn infrastructure.
I just figured, respectfully, that if we were to condition it, you would oversee that, and you would tell them when they're allowed.
But once you give them the grant of location, you're entitling them to be in there,
Okay,
and so I would say no.
okay. Thank you, sir.
So,
Yes.
Mr. President,
Councilor Demers.
and I get everybody's comments, it's just procedurally, I'll admit it, I don't know what motion we're gonna make here or what we're gonna do. Is the applicant gonna be urged to withdraw the petition without prejudice? Are we gonna delay this and put it off and continue it until March? So this is the question I'm trying to get to, because it doesn't seem like anybody else was ready to make a motion on this
Do we have a
petition.
petition?
we still would need the permit, though. If we get the grant, we can't do anything with it without the permit. We definitely need to.
Correct, but if
Yep.
you're not gonna be ready to actually go out and do this work for another 2 months, why are we talking about it right now?
We're hoping to be ready to go out before 2 months. We're hoping that the DOT will be ready for us. And even if they're not, we just want to have the grant because, like I said, we're financially under a time clock with them, contractually obligated to finish our work in 23 days. So I just wanted to have the grant so that when we are ready, then we can get it walked with Jay, dig safed, permitted, and then they can start the construction.
23 days from when?
From when they send us the notice to proceed.
Would the petitioner perhaps want to continue this to either the February 18th or the March 4th date? That way it will give you a little time to work out the details with all the parties involved.
Yes, February would be better.
Pardon me?
February would be better if
February
that's
18th?
okay. Yep.
Make a motion.
Make a motion, open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second to open a public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in this matter? Please step forward. Seeing no one.
Make a motion to continue the public meeting until the city council meeting on February 18th.
Second.
The motion and the second, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is on the public hearings is GR Development LLC for a special permit under section 5.1 subsection 37 to allow for a car wash and associated site a car wash and associated site improvements at 325 Montville Avenue. A communication dated January 6, communication dated December 23rd, 2024 was received from Attorney Joseph R. Tyree requesting for a leave to withdraw without prejudice.
Attorney Tabby, how are you
You want to accept
tonight?
that communication for the record?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Thank you. For the record, Attorney Joseph Tabby, Rubin and Redmond, 500 Unicorn Park Drive in Woburn, on behalf of the applicant. We have filed a request for leave to withdraw without prejudice, and my client wanted me to pass along to the council that they're very thankful for the positive comments you made about their proposed building, their proposed business operations, and they'd like to find a site in Woburn. So if you're aware of any other site in Woburn, please pass it along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions for Attorney Tybee?
Motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
Motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone here who would like to speak in this matter? Please step forward.
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
A motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Make a motion to leave to withdraw without prejudice be granted?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Next item on the agenda we have is 20 Sonar Drive LLC for special permit under section 7.3 and 5.1 subsection 69, as well as some modifications of previously issued special permits. Communication dated January 6, 2025 was received from Thomas C. Quinn, the building commissioner, regarding 20 to 30 Sonar Drive.
Make a motion communication be received, made part of the permit?
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. That passes.
Okay, again, for the record, Attorney Joseph Tybee, Rubin and Rudman, 500 Unicorn Park Drive in Woburn, here on behalf of the applicant. This is a continuation of the public hearing from December 17th of 2024. At that time, we had proposed a couple of conditions to this special permit. I'd like to submit copies of those to the council, please.
Make a motion to receive those and act as a working draft?
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, just to refresh your memory, the petitioner is seeking a modification to the special permit last modified on November 7th of 2023, seeking approval of a revised site plan, increase in advanced manufacturing use from 17,027 square feet to 25,891 square feet, reduction in parking from 83 to 67 spaces for the proposed advanced manufacturing, office, lab, research, and testing uses, and the continuation of the existing non-conforming parking spaces. So at the public hearing on December 17th, petition was viewed favorably by this council, subject to receiving from the building commissioner his opinion, if you will, on the proposed use. Mr. Quinn did submit a memorandum yesterday, and unless there's any other questions, I would respectfully request the council approve the special permit request with the two conditions that have been proposed. One references the site plan of record, and two incorporates any and all other conditions that are in the previous special permit decision as modified, and there's also a request for a finding under section 7.3 of the zoning ordinance.
Questions? Councilor Papalato.
Thank you. I've walked the site, I've been in the building, I've got a tour. We waited to hear from Tom Quinn on this, and in my view of this, everything is in order here, and I fully support this.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Make a motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
A motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone here who would like to speak in this matter, please step forward. Seeing no one.
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Make a motion that the city council make the following finding: that the proposed use by the petitioner is consistent with the past use of the property and is not substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming use and structure due to the neighborhood.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Make a motion that the special permit be granted with the two conditions as agreed to this evening.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Next item on the agenda we have is Treetop Home LLC for a special permit under Section 7.3 to raise a pre-existing non-conforming four-family dwelling and rebuild a new four-story dwelling at 5 Bennett Street. A communication that was not on the extended agenda dated January 6, 2025 was received from Attorney James Giuliano requesting a continuance.
Make a motion that the communication be received, made part of the permanent record.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Attorney Giuliano, how are you tonight?
Very well, thank you, Mr. President. Good evening. For the record, Attorney James Giuliano, Giuliano Law Group, 607 Main Street here in Woburn, on behalf of the applicant. This is a continuance for the location at 5 Bennett Street for a special permit under Section 7.3. We are proposing to raise the existing four-family dwelling and rebuild a new dwelling. I just wanted to come up here and just give a little bit of a preview of what's going on. We have substantially shrunk the footprint of the building, almost to where it is now. We spoke to the neighbors, obviously. That was a large concern as to the first proposal that was rather large. We have shrunk it. We're getting calculations, but it's pretty close to the original footprint. That being said, we have to reconfigure a new building altogether. So what the renderings that we provided are probably going to change because the footprint is significantly smaller. We are able to provide additional parking. There's, even though obviously what's existing there wasn't sufficient parking on site, we are going to provide additional parking, and we are going to work with drainage. So this is going to take a little bit of time. The architect, we have the footprint from the engineer. The architect is still working through to design the house. Once that is done, we can work with the engineer. Then we have to submit everything to Jay Duran. Jay's obviously been involved with this with regards to the drainage as well. So there's a lot of moving parts. So we're suggesting that if the council is opines, we can move this to the end of February to continue this matter, to give us a little bit of time rather than pushing it from meeting to meeting. So I think that should be realistic.
Councilor Mercer-Bruin.
Thank you, President Dillon. Thank you, Attorney. So my question to you, one is, we've been here quite a few times, right? Have these plans changed substantially enough that perhaps you should be withdrawing this one and resubmitting a new permit? I mean, because what you filed, if it has changed that drastically, it sounds like we might be needing to start over. So I wanted to put that out there. And then secondly, for me, and I can't speak for the rest of the council, but it's time for us to see something.
Yeah.
Sooner rather than later. Or withdraw, refile, and let's keep things moving.
Sure.
And that's just one councilor's opinion. I feel like we've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, and I think, for us, it's been a little frustrating. Things have been slower on our end of the drawing board, no pun intended, I guess pun intended, but the drawings that I thought we would have seen earlier have not come over. So I don't think it is unrealistic to say that if we can't provide some sort of rendering, well, let me just back up. I think the application in the footprint has changed. The design and what we're doing has not changed to warrant a withdrawal. But that being said, I have no problem withdrawing if we can't provide something sufficient by even the next meeting, because I think it's easier on me as well to just have to refile rather than kicking it and just jamming up the log. I mean, it's no fun for myself and
And
my
for the
paperwork as
neighbors
well.
too, and again, I'll defer to the council.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair.
But it just seems like it's been around for a long time, and we haven't seen anything new, and,
I expected by now to have
Thank you,
something, but
President.
I don't disagree with that, and I have actually, unilaterally have no problem with that. I think that's fair to everybody in the city and in the council as well, so.
Anyone
thank you,
else?
President Dillon.
Thank you. Just from the chair, this is my ward. and I have spoken to the abutters, the neighbors, and this has been in front of us a number of times. So I'm going to strongly suggest that the next time you come in front of us, we have something much more substantial that is going to have a better appearance for the neighbors. You know by now what all involved are looking to try to achieve there.
Yep.
Nobody wants to hold up new development in Woburn. But it is not fair to continually come here and push it off and push it off. It's not fair to the clerk, it's not fair to the city council, and more importantly than that, it's not fair to the constituents out there. So we're looking at the next meeting.
So, Mr.
Yeah.
President, if I may, yeah, if, it sounds like if the council wishes, I can have a definitive answer by the next meeting. So the next meeting, I either present something substantial, or I give enough heads up to the clerk that this is going to be withdrawn and then filed when we have something that's relatively good to go. I think that's fair.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So just for clarification, Mr. President, that's going to be the 21st?
21st works, Attorney Giuliano, for you?
That's fine. Yes, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
A motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in this matter? Please step forward. Seeing no one.
Make a motion that the matter be continued to the regular meeting of the city council on January 21st.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, we have AutoWorks, Inc. for a special permit under Section 5.1, subsection 44, to amend a previously issued special permit and to remove condition 2 to allow for spray booths at 921 Main Street. There are no new communications.
Good evening, Mr. President. Again, for the record, Attorney James Giuliano, Giuliano Law Group, 607 Main Street here in Woburn, on behalf of the applicant. So continue our conversation on this one. So we're at a crossroad with this one. My client has been seeking alternative means to sort of make this work. Councilor DeMambro and I have had extensive conversations. I thank him for his patience because this one's been a little bit of frustrating on both ends. But where we're at right now is that we have a few alternative measures. I don't know if they're going to pass the snuff test, to be honest with you. That's up to the council to see if what we're proposing. However, at this point, we have some sort of alternative measures. The big thing in discussing it with Councilor DeMambro is the smell, right? That facility can absolutely have no smell to it. I'm told by my client that what they will produce will not have a smell. And again, I recommended that we have expert testimony, some sort of, chemist, biologist, representatives that would come here and speak on behalf of the applicant, not just providing documentation that says this is 99% effective with VOCs. I don't think that's enough, and I think Councilor DeMambro agrees with that. I think the council will agree with that. So that's where we're at. I am told by my client, he will have somebody, despite mentioning it several times. So again, we're at a crossroad whether we can continue this matter, and if he doesn't get anybody in, I have advised him that we have to withdraw this application if nobody is in front of this council other than myself. And if he can produce people that the council would wish to hear and sort of, has enough information to make a decision, then we would do that at the next meeting. But again, we're at a crossroad here, so I'll defer to the council with this one. I know it's sort of a conversation we had at the last hearing, but so that's where we're at right now with this one.
Councilor DeMambro.
Attorney Giuliano, we've gone over this numerous times. Councilor Tedesco put the condition, when they moved there, they did not want a spray booth. I can understand why. I've heard from the constituents, they're loud and clear. They do not want a spray booth within 8 feet of their property. This isn't an industrial park, this isn't Salem Street, this isn't New Boston Street or Merrimack Street down near the railroad. This is in a residential home. I provided everybody on the council with a map. The map that I provided shows all of the homes around the auto works at 921 Main Street. There's a daycare. There's an elementary school. There's elderly housing. There's elderly. There's people with health issues. It's, you know, of my opinion, there's no way to contain the odor of a spray booth from a body shop. You sent me a text at 1:05 today for some sort of device that'll burn it. It's an incinerator. Just in the 4 or 5 hours I had to scramble to try to get answers. Believe it or not, I've called the DEP. I was on the phone 3 times with the DEP, once with the EPA. I have emails flying around. I called the manufacturer looking for specs on the units that they manufacture. And I believe it's called, let me see here what this thing is called. The device is an afterburner by Stelter and Brink. I can't get any information. I had to put in all my personal information, email, phone number, everything else, just to get the spec sheets on this, to get the MSDA sheet on it and what it can and cannot do. I've got documentation from the EPA that states there's really no way to get 99% efficiency. It's kind of like an automobile. I have documentation from the EPA here that basically says, and I'll save everybody the anguish of reading this stuff, however, it remains strong suspicion that the performance of a typical in-service afterburners are not as good as reported in the ideal tests, because afterburners are not income producers, and it is suspected that their operation and maintenance may receive less than adequate attention. Now, when they say adequate attention, according to all the body shops that I've spoken to, even if you sit and maintain these types of booths and you replace the filtration systems on them, and I have documentation from paint companies. I've got DuPont. I've got PPG, Excel. I got them all. Axalta. I've read all of them. There's no way to take and eliminate 100% of the VOCs or the odor. Even if you could, the materials that are used in a body shop, the paper, the masking, the tape, the solvents, the rags, everything, those got to get discarded. Those have the solutions on them. Those end up in a dumpster. Those fumes through the VOCs will emit into the air. The neighbors are going to smell it. The cost associated with all this, the construction, the permits, the running around with scientists and everything else, it's not going to pass the smell test, no pun intended. It's not. And there's nothing here in all the documentation I have that states that these solvents, these solutions, whether they're water-based or not, are not hazardous. They're all hazardous. And it's a fallacy to say that they're not, because they are. And there's no technology out there that's 100%. And nobody's putting their name on it. Matter of fact, they're running and hiding from me. I've called on this latest endeavor with this afterburner. I spoke to the chief, fire chief. I spoke to the lieutenant for fire prevention, in depth. The building commissioner. Now, this is all within the last 5 hours of today. Nobody has any answers on this. Nobody knows anything about it. As a matter of fact, it was told to me that the fire marshal for the state of Massachusetts says there's a moratorium on these. So I don't know where your client says that these are OSHA approved, because OSHA has really nothing to do with it. It really is the EPA and the DEP. And quite honestly, nobody has any information on these things. I don't know where these things are used, maybe in Midwest somewhere, but around here and the size of that unit and knowing how that thing has to be fueled, whether it LP, natural gas, diesel fuel, that's a whole other box of problems. It is not conducive of an area for a spray booth. It's not personal. This is what the residents have screamed loud and clear to me that they do not want. It's bad enough they have to put up with all the diesel fumes because they're right on Main Street, and there's a traffic light there, and it's a busy intersection at School in Maine. The last thing they need in that environment, especially with a preschool literally 200 feet away, is an early learning childhood center, I should say, with little toddlers and everything else, is smelling the fumes from all the chemicals and all the aftermath of a body shop. I have offered your client through the last year and a half to find another location that's more conducive deep into the industrial park, 1,000, 1,500 feet away from residential areas. And by the way, the fueling systems for these, there's a chemical additive. There's a chemical component to this. They might have to be 1,000 to 1,500 feet away from residential homes. So for them to keep petitioning this and coming in front of the city council and me taking and going after all of these heads of all these departments, fire, building, this and that, like they got nothing better to do, we're chasing a ghost here. And at some point, your client has to realize it's not personal. It's just the courtesy. You want to do business in Woburn, you have to come here and get along and work in conjunction with our residents and our body of government. And I'm willing to work with them, providing they find an area, a location in the industrial park, 1,000 feet away from people. So we don't get calls that, and it's in my opinion, this is my opinion, those calls will come. That these people will complain about the smell, the aroma, the this, the that. And I never felt this way before until that thing went in. And it is my opinion. I don't have doctors, I don't have chemists, I don't have biologists here. What I have is what I've researched through the internet over the last year and a half. I got a folder here, I got another folder here. This is all the data. I will gladly hand that off to you and you can read all of it about all the different chemicals and the health concerns and risks that are on every single chemical that's used in a body shop. Every one of them come with a health hazard. And that is the reason I have said over and over again, and I agree with the previous counselor, Tedesco, that is not the location for a spray booth. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Viola.
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you through the chair to Councilor DeMambro for all your hard work and all the information that you've looked up and the time that you've taken with us. So thank you. That's information for us to deliberate. Secondly, Councilor Giuliano, I know I have a body shop sort of near me, a car dealership. On any given day, as I've said before, you can still smell the paint fumes from that dealership when their doors are open, they're spraying. And we do have an elementary school there. If it was to come before me now, where that body shop is, I would probably be in the same predicament as Councilor DeMambro, that I probably wouldn't be in favor of it at all. I'm very hard pressed to vote in favor of this. The houses are in such close proximity to this that I can't see them not smelling this, any of the harmful smells going to them, even if somebody has breathing issues. So, thank you.
Councilor Mercer-Bruin.
Seems to me Councilor DeMambro has done more work than your client. So it should be pretty obvious what needs to happen here. And I'll leave it at that, Counselor.
Anyone else? Councilor Demers.
So, Councilor DeMambro, what's your wish this evening with regards to this petition?
I would like to ask the clerk, do we have to, because there was a judge's ruling on this, so I asked the city clerk, Madam Clerk, do we need to seek outside counsel in order to come up with some sort of a motion on this that needs to be heard by an outside counsel?
So I'm just writing that down. I'm not the city solicitor or the outside counsel, but I don't think, I mean, if you'd like to ask their opinion of stuff, you have every right to do so.
I would like to make a motion to have a communication sent to our city solicitor, Salvati, that I,
He's,
He can't.
He
you
can't.
can't send it to him, it has to, I can find the right person to send the communication to.
okay, let's have a communication sent to the appropriate parties for
Appropriate counsel.
appropriate counsel for legal advice on how to deny this once and for all.
Somebody's stealing my stuff.
There is a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Make a motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
A motion and a second to open the public hearing, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Is there anyone here in the audience that would like to speak in this matter? Please step forward. Mr. Palay, how are you tonight?
I'm well. Very well, thank you. I just wanted to...
Could you just?
Ken Parley,
Thank you.
North Woburn, 5 Marion Street. I just wanted to come here in support of my friend, Councilmember Lou DeMambro, and his hard work for this. We have areas for this. I think this horse is kind of beaten down. But I do want to applaud the applicant, too, as well. That building looks nice. They're doing a lot of work down there. They're doing a lot of good things. And it's been expressed to them that the city will work with them. So I just appreciate your time, Lou, on this, Mr. DeMambro. And thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Ken.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in this matter? Please step forward.
Make a motion that we continue the public hearing to the regular meeting of City Council on January 21st.
Second.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Thank you, Attorney.
Next item on the agenda we have is to determine whether a property located at 4 Maywood Terrace is a nuisance, as described in Mass General Law, Chapter 139, Section 1.
Councilor Mercer Bruin.
Thank you, President Dillon. I spoke with Commissioner Quinn at 6:45 this morning. He, too, is an early riser. He did provide to me a quick update. As most of you know, he did reach out, and our city clerk reached out to the owner of the property. What Commissioner Quinn is waiting for is written permission to go on to the property. There's a couple of other safety items he needs to confirm that require him to go on the property. And although we all heard the owner of the property give permission, Commissioner Quinn would like that permission in writing, because he may show up there when the property owner is not there and the tenants are. So he needs that, he needs that documentation. I will say this, the owner of the property did call Commissioner Quinn back saying, yes, you have permission. He said, great, thanks, can you send it via email or letter? She has not done that tonight. So what I would ask tonight is that the city council, and this is in the form of a motion, that the city council send a communication to the owner of 4 Maywood Terrace requesting that a written communication, either email or via U.S. mail, be sent to the building commissioner with a copy to our city clerk, granting him permission to go onto the property with or without her in attendance. And she is to do that before our next public hearing on January 21st.
Second.
And that is in the form of a
Sorry.
motion.
Second.
There is a second. There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
And then having said that, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That passes. Is there anyone here in the audience that would like to speak in this matter? Please step forward.
Make a motion to continue the public hearing to January 21st.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second to continue the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Thank you, President Dillon, and
You are
fellow
welcome.
council members.
Next item on the agenda we have under appointments and elections is the reappointment of Eleanor Collins to the Woburn Council on Aging.
Make a motion the matter be referred to the Committee on Personnel.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Next item on the agenda is the appointment of Susan Colaco to the Woburn Council on Aging.
Same action.
Second.
A
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Further business.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 8:58.